So you've got another stamp set, of course, with your mushroom/toadstools. And these three in particular, I just want to do some different techniques, slightly different, not massively different, but almost adding curve and real depth, especially on this one where the fungus is growing on top of each other and it's going right underneath. So I thought that would be a good one. I'm going to do this one in red with the dark grey so it looks like it's rounded. And then this one we're going to flick but with a slight angle. So this will be a little bit different as well. So the other couple that are on there I think we've really covered off with the first mushroom that we did. And this is a really good one to practice and nail those techniques as well. All right, so we're going to start with this one. And again, I'm going to start with my light colours. So I'm going to start with W1 again. And you'll find that I probably do this a lot, you know, right the way through. I'll always start with the pale layer. But instead of covering the full thing, we're just going to flick. Now, you can see with the lines on here, they kind of go that way or that way. And that's the way that we're going to use the flick technique that we learned before. This time, rather than it just, I'm just going to move this out of the way so you can see, rather than it just being this, I'm pressing the nib down more and I'm kind of doing that. So it's got a thicker base, going finer as it goes up, all right? So you can see that it just blends out. And that's the great thing about having a flexible nib like this, you can do stuff like that. So we're just gonna work in, and this is a really good way of colouring quicker, if you like. I know I've been telling you to slow down, but this, if you want to cover a bigger area, I prefer doing this with the brush nib to using the chisel, because I can still get that nice sweeping effect and that nice soft finish. All right, now I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to come down from the top just along here just to add a little bit of light, because for me the darkest area is going to be at the base of this mushroom, and then it's just going to get lighter as we go up, but at some point in the middle it will have its lightest point. All right, so I might leave, might not, might change my mind halfway through, but we might leave a little bit of white space on this one. All right, maybe just around here. So I'm going to be a little bit more conscious of that area. Then I'm going to go in with WG2. And we're going to do the same thing, but not go quite as high. All right, so I'm going to do the same sweeping technique. You can see it's laying that colour down evenly, which is fabulous, giving you that almost feathered-like finish at the top, which is exactly what we want. And then as I get round to here, I'm going to fill in that dark space. So what we're doing is we're making it round from bottom up, but also the sides. So if I go in now and add that dark, and I might not go in with any darker than that, but I do feel that it needs to have that dark on those sides, okay? And I might just put a little bit, like the tiniest amount, just around one or two of these spots here, okay? Like that, just a very light. And you know what, it's funny because I've just looked at the mushroom that I've just done with you in class and then looked at one that I did before, and they are different. And that's the great thing about it. So every time you colour, you might be a little bit darker, you might be a little bit lighter, the shading will be in a different place. That's fine, all right? We're not trying to replicate the same thing over and over and over again. And every time you try it and you get something a bit different, keep those in a folder so that you can look and go, right, well, I like that because I did this, and that bit I did that, and write notes on them, you know, just as something that you can go back to and think, actually, I really liked it when I did that bit, and then you can take that into another project. It's just brilliant to always have that record, and also the record of your journey and your progression, because that's really cool, because when you get to lesson 15 and you look back at lesson 1, you're like, yeah, actually I've come a really long way, and that's exactly what we want you to achieve. So now I'm going to go back in with a darker colour, and I'm going back to a lighter flick this time, and just very gently going in and adding a little bit more dark towards the bottom. I'm pulling some bits further up, leaving some bits lower, just adding that sweeping texture into here now, okay? And I'm going to fade this out as we get to this side, all right, so that we're not too dark on the sides. And then I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to fade it out as I'm coming up. So you can see now I'm flicking from kind of a point here up and then moving up so it becomes thinner and thinner as we go out, all right? Now I'm going to be a bit braver now. I'm going to go for WG5 just to get that real depth down here. And we're going to go in and just again add that little touch right the way along the bottom, but I'm not going to go up the sides with this. I'm going to keep it down here. Now I'm getting really brave now. I'm going for WG7 and just right at the base here, I'm just again going to add that little bit more depth in there. And I'm also going to do it, if you look at the top of your mushroom, you've got like these, almost like the top edge, but the top edge that's on the top so it's flat, if you like. I'm just going to go in with a little bit of dark there just to finish that off, and then we're going to work backwards. All right, so same thing again. And we're going to go, not starting right at the bottom, just bringing that darker colour a little bit higher, which is why I didn't go too high in the first place. And just following the lines of that stamp. Okay, leaving little gaps in between, so we're adding some texture in there, just really making that brush nib do its job. But very little pressure. I'm not pressing down at this point at all. I'm just letting it do its job. Back to W3. Again, I'm just going to start here very lightly, because if you press down too hard, you'll get a mark here where it's moved the colour. So you just want to very gently just follow that colour through like this. The less pressure you put on, the less likely it is to move the colour underneath. And you can see it now starting to get that real texture that a mushroom has. If you ever, you know, when you're cooking, if you ever just stop for a second and look at how a mushroom is built, it's really, they're amazing. All those different lines and channels and depth, and just incredible. And then we're just going to go W2 this time, so just a little bit further up. Remember, I'm going to leave that little bit of white space this time, even though that's not something that I do a lot, just to show you. Then you can make a decision whether you like it or not, and if you don't, you just go over it with a palest colour. And then I'm going to go back in with my W1. So I'm going to go up again, but I'm going to work down from the top as well. So I'm just going to bring that colour down. In fact, I'm just going to work from the top on this, I think, which will give me that nice light area just coming down from that top. And then just to get rid of like these little brush bits here again, just do that backwards and forwards. So you're not doing this, you're lifting and you're doing this. Very gently, okay? I'm exaggerating to make the point, but very gently, so it's just almost just touching. And this for me gives it like that watercolour look. You know, like it's been painted in, you know, when you get like a little area of the watercolour card that grips the paint a little bit more than another, and you get that texture within it. That's what you can get, but with an alcohol marker. Who knew, right? So I'm going to let that do its thing, and I want the inside of this to be the red, because I want it to look like it's going to blossom and open up. Do you know what I mean? And I really want to get that red colour inside there to really make it pop. So again, I'm going to go in with my lightest colour first. Now this is a very small area, but we are still going to be able to get that blend. So I am literally using the nib, the tip of that nib, that brush nib, and just laying that colour down. Because when you're working in a small area, you have less room on that card to get that blend. So if you put too much colour down first, there's a potential that it might bleed out. I haven't found it with these, but if you find that you're getting that will be why. All right, so very, very light touches with this. And then I'm just going to literally just flick up from the inside, making sure I get right into those little corner places like this. Very, very, very lightly. And I can go very light because I'm in complete control. Look how low down now I'm holding that nib. It's really low, all right? Really, really low down. And that gives me total control. And then I'm just gonna go along and just do that little flick that goes in and then going right into that corner and then go back in with my really dark red and really, really lightly this time. Making sure that we're going right to that stamped line. You can see there, look how that colour then just goes in. And then I'm just now, you can see I'm flicking down from the top. So I'm just going to show you what that's doing on here. So I'm flicked up from the bottom with my colour. And now I'm going to flick down from the top. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get most of the colour here at the top and it's going to fade out as it hits that middle area. So it's going to automatically blend the lightest area to the lightest touch of the area together there. And you'll see now, you can see you've got that seamless blend. So sometimes it's nice to do that, especially on small areas, because then you're not, when you've got like that much space to work with, it's very difficult to get the blend across the lines because they're so close together, whereas flicking down from the top with the light one enables you to do that. All right, so I'm quite happy with that. We're just going to do the stalk just to finish that off, and then we're going to move on to this one. So again, I'm going in with my lightest colour and just laying down that W1, and you can see how beautifully smooth these are. You can't hear any squeaking, you know, there's nothing like that. You're just working with a beautiful quality brush nib. And again, I'm just going to put a few little dots in here just to ground it. We're not going to do the gravel again because we've already done that bit. You can do that at home. And then I'm going to go in again, W2, so bringing that down, that colour down. And it's important that you get, I think that you get this part of the stalk as dark as you've got that bit. So it looks like it's seamlessly blending into itself, because that's the way that the mushroom or toadstool has been drawn. So I think it's important that we build up this colour as well. But this time I'm going to come down the sides because I want it to look round. And the way to get that to look round is to bring that colour to the side, so you're creating that round shape with your colour. So I'm going to go in with W3, and again, working behind the stones is going to be a little bit darker. I'm going to add a little bit in there because there's a few grasses, and then right down from here I'm going to start to pull that colour down, and I'm going to go in with this one. I'm going to add a little bit of that dark right down the edge, and again just using the fine tip, and then go back in. Oh, wrong end. Remember that grey ring shows you which is the brush end, and just bringing that colour up a little bit more. And then I'm going to go right in with I'm going to go straight in with W7. I'm getting brave now. And the smallest amount just flicking down, and don't have them all finishing at the same point. Bring some a little bit lower, some a little bit higher, but it will also reinforce. And you can always go back in and just add a little bit more of that dark. And just by doing that, you can see it's going in now. So the top is coming in to the stalk like that. And that's really cool, because it just starts to look more and more and more realistic the more you do. And then I'm just going to soften that out a little bit. So just as we've learnt to do, going in and a little bit more depth behind here, I think. And then we'll go back to W1. And I'm going to do this bit. So you can see now we've got a definite line between there and there. And you can see all the colours in between. If I then just do that up and down, it will soften all that. You can go over that darker bit a little bit, not completely to the edge, and just backwards and forwards. It was really, really important for the Inklily team that we did an education programme, because if we'd just given you the pens and said off you go, you wouldn't have got all this information, you know, and all this education, and you'd be like, well, why have I got a brush nib? Why is a brush nib important? You know, why do I need that? But by doing this, we're teaching you that, and I think that makes a big difference. And the similarity for me is like when I do the Caterpillar shows. So when Kelly Thompson came over, the guy who invented Caterpillar, he didn't just say, this is a cutting machine that has a lifelong guarantee on the blade because it self-sharpens. He explained why little V-blades, scissors, rotary trimmers, guillotines were designed long-term to fail. So then you understood why the Caterpillar was so good. And that's exactly what I want to do with you in these classes. I want to explain to you why these are so good, so you understand why maybe you haven't had the results you've expected previously, and why these are different. And I love that bit. That's almost my favourite bit of the whole thing. So you can see now I'm going to leave that. I'm really quite happy with that. So I've got that light area in the middle, which is making it come in slightly. I've got that real depth of colour around here. So it's going in, so that bottom bit is curving in to the stalk, and then you've got that beautiful pop of red inside as well. All right, so the next one I'm going to do is this fungus that's growing on the tree.